It's a goal! Can you believe it? It's extraordinary.
Top of the agenda are the brutal weekends of Collingwood and Adelaide. There was a lot to endure and many a question to be asked. For the Magpies, it seems to be one of tipping point on the injury front. For the Crows, it's a little more difficult to pinpoint what the right question is and whether it's one of willingness.
Big picture, there's a lot of things that we would like to be doing better.
The problem is, where do you start?
Clearly everyone in there is disappointed. You know, we came here to win a game of footy and performed poorly and walk away with a loss. That stings.
Don Pyke feeling the heat at the moment.
Disappointing day, wasn't it? We were poor, we looked like we had low energy, and clearly at the moment we're playing with pretty low confidence.
The door is closed on Adelaide at the MCG.
I just don't think they're a happy group at Adelaide now, and you have to question whether Don Pyke has lost the playing group.
We've tried a few different things, we did some different training methods, we've tried some other things, so we'll again engage with our group, look through it and go, what can we do differently this week to give ourselves a chance to come out and play far better.
Since round 6, the Pies have won 20 quarters and they've lost 25 quarters. So they're desperately out of form at the moment.
We lost the game quite convincingly, but I'm not disheartened by what we saw in many ways. There's a lot of improvement in us, but we've got a month to find that.
Just get the basics right. You know, every team goes through injuries. Perhaps they're not good enough to beat Richmond, but their effort wasn't there tonight.
No, particularly early. They got smashed in the contest.
I'm still pretty bullish about what our players can do and what we're capable of.
You know, we've now got to go back to the drawing board and come up and get ready for St Kilda next week.
They've both lost 4 of the past 5. They both sit in the 8s as we meet tonight. So let's start in Adelaide. Yep. She's a fierce old town, as the newspaper will tell you that, is front and back of the Advertiser today.
They're the sort of covers that you have for an obituary. I'm being serious there. It's big, front and square. Necessary. Let's just deal with what happened on Saturday before we get on to Don Pyke. Everyone's pointing the finger at Don Pyke, and okay, no problem. I think it's got to be pointed at the whole club, and I honestly think that there's some residue from 218, start of 218. My mate Rowie on 5AA, Jared, is saying that the players have not got the trust of the club back, rightly or wrongly. It could be, it's certainly a discussion point. But if you're going to turn up to a game of football at the MCG against an opposition team, and if you're going to lay 1 tackle in the front half against Carlton's 20 tackles in the front half in the first quarter, what in the bloody hell are you doing turning up? Now, who's responsible for that? Now, there's a level of responsibility on the players, Jared, and there's a level of responsibility on the coach. And this is where questions come. Has Pyke lost the players? How about the players start looking themselves in the eye and say, what are we doing? You don't have to be fast. You don't have to be anything if you want to pressure and stay in the game. Carlton, a young Carlton team, 20-1, Jared, 20-1. What a joke. Don Pyke should sit down and say, you're a joke of a football team, because everything else is not working. They're trying so many things. He said, we're trying this, we're trying that. How about we start slapping people across the face? Not figuratively, but, getting into them. And Don Pyke. Maybe Don Pyke's game plan is just in the space of 2017 Grand Final series, or that year to now, the game style doesn't fit the way football's being played. That's a belief from Adelaide, my understanding. All that run off the half-back. Teams are defending them better. Teams are defending the game better. The forwards need fast ball movement. They're all half-forward flankers, running. They've got some problems, Jared, and everyone goes to Don Pyke. I think they've got to go to the club as a whole, but I think the players have got to take a certain amount of responsibility. Turn up with some vigour and some zest. What is that? That is rubbish, Jared. That is rubbish.
So the path through the week's interesting, isn't it? As edgy training session, rattle the cage at selection, miserable performance, beer and pizzas in the aftermath. So there was a really deliberate...
That's crisis time, Jared.
Well, those are the markers
they are.
in a way, aren't they?
Crisis time.
So there was a really clear strategy from the club to circle the wagons by the hierarchy today, and it was begun by Mark Rasciuto, the Director of Football.
Well, Don Pyke is absolutely safe at the moment. I think he's of course, he's under pressure at the moment because the side isn't going well, but as I said, at the mid-season bye, all the players were very happy with what was going on. We're 8-5, and unfortunately, it's gone backwards since the bye. So they need to get on top of what's causing it and change it really quickly. If it doesn't change quickly, then they have to change more personnel. We've got an ageing list, and that's why there's been some older players dropped. But right now, Ditz, when you're in the 8, surely you're picking a side to win and try and keep winning and try and make finals.
So contracted through to the end of 2021. That extension came around the grand final appearance.
He's not going anywhere
No.
next year. Don Pyke will be coaching Adelaide next.
Coaches are assembled. Nathan Buckley's here in the studio. Bucks, welcome.
Jared, Robbo.
G'day, Bucks.
And Don Pyke is with us at Crows headquarters in Adelaide. Don, welcome.
Good evening, guys.
What was the purpose of pizza and beers yesterday to bring the club together at your house?
It was actually interesting the way it panned out. I mean, my wife had organised a catch-up with some of our coaches and their wives and bits and pieces, and she texted me after the game and said, look, if you want to invite the rest of the playing group and the footy department over, it's probably a good opportunity for the whole club to get together, and that was really what it was about. It was just a chance to get in there. There was probably about 50 or 60 kids running around the place, and it was a fun afternoon. It was an afternoon where we just sat and spent some time with each other, and there wasn't much footy spoken. It was a good fun afternoon.
Don, straight to the hard questions. What pizza did you order? What's your favourite?
I'm generally a bit of a meat lover's man. Something with some salami or pepperoni and maybe some olives thrown on there. So there's a few of those flying around. I managed to grab a piece, but most of our players grabbed the lion's share of it. They can put the food away, our boys.
Hoped on that it can serve as some sort of circuit breaker along those lines?
Well, I think we a bit like what Nathan was just saying, we see as an opportunity for our players and coaches and partners and wives to just engage in a different setting. And as he alluded to, I mean, we're all people trying to do our very best here, and at times, the game challenges us, and that's what happens. But it's important in those times that you stick together, and that's by spending that time together, and allows you to actually just be there for each other if that's the case. We need that.
Woke up this morning, Mark Rasciuto spoken, Fagan, the CEO spoken, Chapman spoken. Don, do you feel like you're under pressure?
Look, I'm very aware of the fact that we're not winning games of footy, and I think any coach is under that very same pressure. And the reality is we're not playing to the level that we believe we're capable of, and we've got to sort that out because we've got 4 weeks to go in a season, and our season's very much alive. But I understand the nature of the industry is it's a win-loss industry, and if you're not winning, and certainly we've got some really proud and passionate fans, and they're a bit frustrated, as I can understand in terms of how we're performing at the moment.
Really curious point of the season and the point of your footy team at the moment. You're in the 8th, you're in 8th spot. You've made some selection changes in recent weeks. You've brought in kids. Do you pick your best team to win next week, or do you feel that you've got to introduce more youth into the team and look ahead to the oncoming years?
Well, that's a balance we always walk, to be honest. When we sit here looking, primarily our objective every week is to pick the best 22 to win a game of footy, and that's what we've done, so far this season. So, I don't think that'll be any different this week at selection. Obviously, we want one eye to the future as well to make sure that we're not leaving some of our young talent, not being able to get games into them as well. So it's always a juggling act, and I'm sure Nathan would be in the same situation, saying, well, we want to make sure we're promoting our youth and getting them in there and playing and getting games, but also, using our experienced players and making sure that they're able to get enough quality on the ground to get wins.
Don, how do you know or how do you check that the players are responding to you and to your coaching in the manner that is necessary?
Yeah, well, that's a constant conversation with our senior players around the messaging, around how we're going about our training and the things that we need to keep monitoring inside our 4 walls to create winning habits, and those conversations are ongoing.
Are those conversations more pointed at a time like this when you don't get the response that clearly you were looking for in Saturday's game?
They're not so much more pointed. I think they're just more, there's probably just, you're having more yeah, if you like, it's probably pointed, might be a reasonable word, to be honest, Jared. Yeah, we're sort of going, well, what is it at the moment that we're lacking? And as I said after the game, I mean, we seem to be lacking a bit of energy in the way that we're playing, and clearly a little bit of confidence as well. So, you know, we know we can't go down the shop and buy that. We've got to work our way through it. And I think, you know, as all clubs who are experiencing a little down trough in form, for us, it's not a matter of sitting in the corner sucking on our thumb. It's more, what do we have to do to come out and fight our way out of it? And that's why I have a great belief and confidence in the players and our playing group to do it. We've sort of experienced it a bit after 4 games this year, where there was a fair bit of heat coming in terms of how we're performing, and they've responded then, and I've got no doubts that they're capable of responding again, and look forward to starting that on Saturday against St Kilda.
And in the art of coaching, Don, how much of that rests with you and how much of that rests with them, the personal accountability of the players and the senior players in particular?
Well, it's a combination of, and it's not just between me and the players. It's everyone who's involved in our program. So, you know, our high performance, you know, staff, our coaches, you know, that sort of level of engagement and understanding of we're all in this together. And, you know, not one component of the footy club will get this done. It has to be a united and a concerted effort by everyone. And that's where we sit, and that's the challenge we face. But I look at it the other way and think it's a great opportunity. And we sit here not in great form, having not, you know, played well in the last month, but with a month of big footy ahead of us to play finals. And, you know, I'd encourage, you know, our guys to, as I spoke to them today about it, it's like, well, there's no point going back. We've got to go forward and understand that our best is good enough, but we need to be able to produce that, and that's going to be that opportunity presents this week to start that ball back rolling.
Sorry, I just want to go back to quarter time, Don. I read out some stats before. It was 20-1 tackles in the forward half at quarter time. So you walk out and all those numbers are there. Do you talk about numbers or do you talk about attitude? How were you at quarter time watching your players dish up, in my words, such an inept effort in what was a pretty good game of football, pretty big game of football?
Yeah, well, I mean, the stats are the stats. I mean, I think at quarter time we were probably 3 or 4 points down. We'd been efficient going forward, but clearly we weren't getting the pressure we wanted on the ball. So those conversations were had, yeah.
Don, do you have an affinity with that? Are you searching for a method at the moment to evolve toward the back end of the season?
I think as Nathan said, I think you're always constantly assessing your style of play against what is an ever-changing landscape of how sides play. And I think each team has, if you like, their own DNA, and most of it will start obviously with the contest stuff and the ability to win your share and put pressure on the ball. But you know, the defensive mechanisms as well as how you move the ball, they're always evolving, and you know, we continue to explore what the best way is for our group, and you know, that's always ongoing.
Don, you certainly haven't stood still as you've wrestled with your lineup. Do you sense at all there's any anxiety around selection, given the willingness you've had to change the team and the senior players who have been part of that?
Yeah, well, I think it's always natural in, you know, elite sort of high performing sport that there's probably anxiety around selection. That's byproduct of the industry we work in. So yeah, we're mindful. I mean, our communication with our players around that, the clarity we provide them when they go in or out of the side, it gives them the best opportunity to continue to work on things they need to. So, yeah, we're mindful of how that works, and we manage that the best we can.
Did you like the response you got from Eddie Betts?
Yeah, well, Eddie, you know, it was probably, you know, my time in coaching, it's probably one of the toughest decisions that we had to make, or I had to make as a senior coach on that, and that was made with quite a heavy heart, to be honest, because I love Eddie Betts, I love how he plays and what he brings to the game. But you know, pleasingly, he went back from the report. You know, I haven't seen his full tape as yet, but suggestions from the report that I got from the Sandford coach was that, you know, he was energetic, he was up and down the ground, obviously finished with the 4 goals, but he was doing the things we were looking for him to be doing. So that's a positive response, and you know, fantastic from Ed.
Don, Nathan, a couple of the broader issues. I think we might have the score review in here after the break. We'll continue on Coach's Night. Don, it's great to have you with us. Thanks for coming on tonight, and good luck with rescuing the form.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
And Bucks, nice to have you back.
Cheers. Thank you.
Nathan Buckley and Don Pyke with us on Coach's Night on AFL 360.